Well, greetings, gals and ghouls of all kinds, with a slightly haunting green thing in the bottom of the camera. Ooh, it's spooky month, and as such, I'm speaking in a spooky voice. We have spooky music, and today we're looking at a spooky character who's not out yet on global, which is great because it does mean that there's he is coming right like very quickly out on global, which is exciting. Because I've gleamed, at least from some of your comments, that some of you guys are pretty excited for the fact that Lucio is getting an alt. Not only that, but it is a Halloween unit, and people love Halloween spooky units. And today, we got Vampire Lucio to take a look at, and an early preview for Globalers, who are probably still deciding whether or not you want this character. So first off, let's start off with a spooky limit burst. Here it is. This is his actual animations and everything. You can take a look here. I mean, it's very, very cool. It's very, very themed for Halloween. I wish it just, like, even a little bit, though, that his limit burst had, like, a little bit more of an actual vampire effect to it. So we'll start off this review talking about the limit burst. After increasing slash attack resistance penetration for 3 turn, deal damage to the target. Haste effect that accumulates when you do CT, which, sure, vampires are fast. I've seen the Castlevania series and whatnot, but kind of wish it had an HP absorption effect, just because, I mean, it's a vampire. Also, why isn't the main job a vampire? I mean, I'm not just nitpicking. I actually do feel like these are valid critiques. Now, let's just move on and talk about TMR. And the TMR is pretty interesting because, as you can see here, I mean, it is an evasion TMR, so people who like evasion are probably looking for, something like this, just because it's a little bit of an upgrade here. But we're also getting an AP refresh on the ability, which is pretty nice. It is a small amount, but any AP refresh is a good AP refresh, right? And with that, we're also getting a physical damage boost. So this TMR might be just long-term incredibly valuable if evasion ever were to come back, or just in general for being maybe a way to irk out some extra damage. So there you go. That's what the TMR is. That's what the character's limit burst looks like. Yes, we need to talk about the character itself. And today, well, how to say this nicely? Essentially, Lucio is kind of built as to be an evasion character, which in the Earth element, I'm less than excited about because it's not Earth's game plan lately. Earth is just a generally really strong element. It doesn't particularly need to do evasion style shenanigans, and some JP players just really have adverse hatred to evasion, and I kind of get it. So before we talk too much more about this character, I would like to remind everyone this is a 70 cost limited time character, meaning that if you do want him, you have to get him soon, but at a 70 cost, he has better rates than all the 100 costs that come out. And not only that, but he will be cost effective for future style events where cost is a factor. So factor that in. Now, taking a look here, you can see essentially that we have a dark elemental team going up against him, mainly because of accuracy is the thing that I kind of want to be testing here with these characters. One thing I think I do want to do really quickly is I do want to this. Oh my goodness, I did not think about this. I also don't want to be critiqued here. We'll throw on some extra defensive stuff and call it a day. If I can remember any other Dark Vision card, sure, close enough. Why not? I mean, it doesn't overly matter. What's important here is to remember that with this setup, this is what you can kind of expect. And just a fair reminder that Earth is not particularly my strongest element, so it's one of the ones that I show off, unfortunately, not as good. But we do have a 140 Renoa here. You can take a look at her stats. And here we have 112 Urel, and you can look at her stats. And now we take a look at Lucio's stats for comparison. One thing that you'll note is that, yes, he does have the Hermes sandals on, and that is a speed boost here. We're looking at 110 for his evasion. If you were to compare that towards any other character in here, the evasion is nowhere near as high as it is on Lucio. So that seems to be the thing they're advertising this character on with, duelist slash fencer. They're essentially making sure that this character is going to be sold as an evasion character, and that's really important for what we're about to talk about. He does have the speed, and he can stack an insane amount of luck, which is a very, very good stat. Hello, Sora. Please don't fall off the window. Not a black cat, but still kind of thematic. And it's good because accuracy, evasion is kind of this character's main shtick, and his only main shtick, because the friend unit doesn't have a particularly high amount of resistance on him. And I would not call his resistances to single target or AoE here any kind of remarkable. He definitely does feel like a 70 cost unit. And even with the TMR here boosting luck a considerable amount, you can see the stats here, you can see the luck percentage that we're getting off of it, the speed bonus, and the attack. You can get an idea for essentially what it is gifting towards this. Not to mention the ability, which is pretty darn good, but I digress. Another source of evasion that he's getting is from the duelist support skill. I mean, they've essentially picked duelist as slash fencer being a major showcase for this character, because normally when characters come out, it's just their normal sub job. But here we actually do have him running this, probably to really push up the evasion. So, against Sephiroth, let's go in, let's take off auto, because that's kind of going to mess this up. Excuse me, I'm still not 100%. But his Spearman abilities, I mean, he does have penetration damage through spear attacks. I don't think that's incredibly any kind of super duper relevant. I mean, yes, it's not necessarily a bad thing for him to have, but it's also one of those things that I personally am just like, okay, sure, he has it. I won't complain about it, but I also don't think that I'm going to be any kind of over the moon. Start getting some characters into place and start charging them up, getting barriers and whatnot, and all that good defenses. And then after that, we'll talk about his abilities and kind of the thing. So you can see already we do have a little bit of a faster character than some of the other Earth Elemental characters, which is important. And if we were just to take a cursory look without really too much buffs, how much damage are we doing here? We're not doing a terrible amount to 3 of these characters. And also, while Dark is still pretty strong, I would say that there are stronger elements now. This damage off of his limit burst is generally pretty good, but it doesn't really feel all that amazing. So what we're really looking here, we're not looking for movement, we're not looking for speed. What we're just going to take a peek here. We're going to try and find, like here we have the damage boost, which we're definitely going to run. But for now, one of the major things I want is just pushing dodge as high as it can possibly go. I accidentally hit the camera there. Is what it is. But taking a look here, we're up to 135 evasion, which is pretty darn good, right? Urel, if Urel would like to just take a swing at Lucio, you can see that he is actually a decent evasion character here. Now, not that Urel is any kind of a perfect character here, but we do see that his evasion is pretty good. It actually does get over the hump of just being strong enough to get around certain attacks, which could end up killing him. Except for, well, this, which we'll talk about in this. But here, boost away. Now we're going to let the dark units do their thing. So first off, One of the things that you can see here, I do feel that this is an appropriately pretty well tuned. Like maybe you could be running some more evasion equipment on Lucio, but I don't think that it's unfair to say that he is a fairly well built evasion character at this time. And you can still see that Majin Pina is actually able to not only potentially have a decent chance of hitting him with some attacks, but also is just capable of dealing a good amount of damage if her attack actually did go through. So switching over here, of course, Sephiroth is, to me, always incredibly relevant when chatting about an evasion character because, well, an evasion character's major thing is evasion, and this is where we're going to talk about it. So first off, main job. Let's take a look here. Axe Knight ability has defense command, which can increase defense, blow resist or strike resistance, and chain resistance to allies. That's pretty good. Damage after target's reaction ability rate is significantly reduced. That's fine. Be able to cause sleep off of the AoE attack. Creates a barrier that prevents physical damage. Increases attack and speed for 3 turns. And his ultimate one, Release Drain. Damage after releasing target's re-raise, absorb part of the damage dealt. Hey, that's at least pretty vampire. And if you go down, Axe sub-abilities are basically move to target square and deal damage, remove certain status effects, and his counter. When receiving damage, there's a chance area attack resistance of allies within area centered around yourself in a diamond AoE. So in this case, it would activate for Urel, it would activate for Renoa because they're in that diamond AoE, will be greatly increased for 1. So this is fine. It's not bad, but you look at a 140 character here, and he's barely surviving a limit burst here, which does feel a little bit scary. He does have the counter thrust, I believe, either from Spearman or React Mirage from Fencer as being a preemptive counter, which isn't necessarily bad, but this is the problem that new Lucio has as an evasion character, is that there's nowhere in his kit that says, hey, you can avoid sure attacks. Sure hit attacks will absolutely be the death of this character, and I don't think that he really has particularly enough to really survive. Like you can see when there's no like sure hit abilities, yes, he absolutely has a pretty high evasion rate. That's good because he would definitely need it. But as soon as a sure hit ability is capable of being hit, and there we go, that was the one I was looking for, it does do a pretty high amount of damage to it. Thankfully, at least with the indication of Sephiroth so far, it's not an insta-kill, but there are potentially higher damage dealing units out there that could be just generally better. And a well-built accuracy unit can still put up a fair fight against this guy. So, let's continue on. We're just going to skip a bunch of turns, and one of the things we want to test next is just this boost. We want to see what kind of damage boost we're going to be getting. And I think we'll just run a few more buffs just to potentially get a few more things cooking here. Is it this one that I want? Oh, I hate when you miss that button. And just to kind of make sure here, let's also do that. All right, and now let's take a look at what that TMR is effectively giving for us. So yes, we have run a bunch of buffs, but right here you can kind of see a little bit of what's going on. So we can see that we're dealing pretty good damage, and that's actually pretty good. It is, in the case of against this specific team, minus the sure hits, he is capable of dealing damage, but not necessarily do terribly well towards getting the kill. So just some other attacks in here, see kind of where the damage is kind of lying. A little bit better against Majin Pina, as one would expect. But with the Fencer abilities and whatnot, if you're at all familiar with Fencer, you'll have an idea. This also is a good indication of just how accurate his sleep status effect is. I mean, maybe a third of a chance if you're lucky, if the faith is high, but that could also be a deciding factor as to on. Also, the last thing to talk about is, what is Lucio good into a mirror match? Which, honestly, with the way this guy is built right now, with the accuracy that he has, not particularly. I think that he would struggle considerably with other evasion characters, because while he does have, really high amount of luck, it's not particularly conducive that he can get a high amount of accuracy. So if another evasion character along, could be just problematic for him. I think that Lucio, Vampire Lucio here, is wonderfully thematic. Like, you look at this guy, you think, wow, this is a Halloween unit. This is definitely a Halloween. That's very, very, reminiscent of vampire things that it can do and whatnot. And all of that's pretty darn cool. We might actually want to skip a few turns to make sure that Lucio gets a few things in here. Alright, come on. Go. So I think Lucio, at the end of the day, is probably more of what we would say kind of a fun unit, kind of a very, very, like, you like Halloween, this guy's gonna go far. If you're an earth elemental person, if you're an evasion type person, then probably there's enough here that you'll be pretty happy with the end result of what you get. And not to mention, again, it is a 70 cost, which is very, very cost effective for certain style events, because at that point, it's not just you that's like cost restricted, your opponent is too. So any kind of advantage that you can potentially irk out in those is overall a net positive. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this first look at Vampire Lucio. It's the first day, so there may be a few more discoveries. Of course, Wotv calc data is always nice because it gives us a little bit of a insight as to what the percentage is, numbers and whatnot. But we'll end with this spooky Halloween screen, which is probably my favorite thing from this update, because I love it when we have these kind of starting screens. Like the main menu or the load-in screen is different sometimes. It's just nice to get a little variety and really celebrate. And then we got some lightning. Love light. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts below. If I missed anything, please be free to kindly point it out. And yeah, maybe there'll be some more updates about Lucio in the future. But for now, that's all. See ya.